Hello, it's Saturday the 25th of June. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broom. We start this evening with the fallout from Britain's decision to leave the European Union. Stock markets around the world were thrown into turmoil upon news of the result, which few investors had been expecting. EU leaders are demanding the UK start the process of withdrawal as quickly as possible. Shin Dong-bin starts us off.
It was a decision that caught the world completely off guard. With Britain's voting to exit the European Union, developments are coming thick and fast. EU officials still reeling from the decision are already pushing the UK to start the divorce proceedings, however painful that may be for both sides. President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, has convened an emergency foreign ministers meeting of the group's 6 founding members, minus Britain, for Saturday. He said the ministers need to discuss ways to discourage other member states from leaving the European Union. The economic repercussions of the UK's decision were felt instantly. Ratings agency Moody's wasted no time downgrading Britain's credit rating outlook to negative from stable. It says the UK's new trade relations with the EU may cause lower growth as confidence levels and investment may suffer. Investors were also rattled. Global equity markets lost a total of over $2 trillion on Friday. London's main FTSE 100 index closed 3.2% lower, and the FTSE 250 index closed with a loss of more than 7%. On the currency markets, the pound dropped to its lowest level in more than 30 years against the greenback. Korea's benchmark Kospi closed at 1,925, down 3.1% from the previous day's close. The tech-heavy Kosdaq tumbled 4.7% on Friday. The carnage was even more pronounced on other Asian markets. Japan's Nikkei was down nearly 8%. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged 3.4% to 17,400. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq shed 3.6% and 4.1% respectively. The Japanese yen and gold market fared well as global investors fled to safer havens. The Japanese currency traded below 100 yen against the US dollar, and the price of gold surged 8% to a 2-year high of $1,300 an ounce. Shin Dong-bin, Arirang News.
The British ambassador to South Korea has stressed his country's relationship with Seoul will not change despite the British people's decision to leave the European Union. Speaking with Yonhap news agency, Charles Hay said Britain outside the EU will look very similar to Britain inside the EU, especially with respect to its relationship with friends and allies like South Korea. He urged people to remember that nothing will happen very soon, as Britain first has to inform the EU of its intention to withdraw, initiating a 2-year or longer process to settle the withdrawal. Hay said that during the period, agreements like the Korea-EU FTA will continue as normal. The envoy also stressed that the UK will always be an outward-looking nation with very strong trade and investment relationship with Korea. 66 years ago today, North Korea launched the attack that started the Korean War. A ceremony was held in Seoul on Saturday to honour those from all over the world who fought to defend South Korea. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
One of the deadliest chapters in Korean history opened on this day 66 years ago, as North Korea launched a surprise attack on South Korea. It marked the beginning of a 3-year war that would claim hundreds of thousands of lives. To commemorate the anniversary and pay tribute to those who sacrificed their lives, the Ministry of Patriots and Veteran Affairs hosted a ceremony in Seoul on Saturday, with over 5,000 distinguished guests, including war veterans. Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-an used the somber occasion to condemn North Korea's continued provocations.
North Korea continues to threaten our security with its latest nuclear and missile tests. We and the international community will counter Pyongyang's provocations and maintain peace on the peninsula.
Nearly 2 million soldiers from 21 different countries defended South Korea under the UN flag. Some returned to Seoul for Saturday's ceremony and said they were pleasantly surprised to see how much the country they helped protect and build has changed over the past 6 decades.
I can't believe the changes, really. It wasn't very much here. Incheon was completely destroyed. It's amazing how they rebuilt so fast, and I'm glad to see that.
Other Korean War veterans expressed sadness and remorse for their fallen comrades.
I have never missed this ceremony. I think of my fallen comrades day and night, and always feel sorry that only I stayed alive.
As South Korea commemorates the fateful events of June 25th, the lives of hundreds of thousands of fallen patriots will be remembered. The ceremony not only pays tribute to the Korean veterans, but also a solemn reminder that there must not be a rehab of the Korean War on the peninsula or anywhere around the world. Kim Won-bin, Arirang News.
Now, in remembrance of the Korean War, exhibitions featuring declassified documents and photos have been held in Seoul all this week. Hwang Ho-jun went to check some out and filed this report.
66 years. More than 2 generations have passed since the Korean War left much of the peninsula in flames. To mark the 66th anniversary on Saturday, exhibitions have been taking place across the country to encourage people to remember. One of the exhibitions, hosted by the National Library of Korea, displays 130 declassified documents and materials from the National Archives and Records Administration.
Unfortunately, the Korean War is becoming more of an abstract concept to many Koreans. So by displaying documents left by those who took part in the war, we hope people would have a better understanding of the true reality of the war.
The documents allow visitors to examine the U.S. impact on Korea before, during, and after the war broke out. One of these is the first situation report from the U.S. ambassador to President Harry Truman. It shows the U.S. reacted almost immediately to the North Korean invasion of South Korea on June 25, 1950. In contrast, local media reports show a more gradual realization of the gravity of the situation over the next week, as South Korean troops are pushed to the southern tip of the peninsula. An illustration of Operation Chromite, more widely known as the Incheon Landing, shows the strategic brilliance of General Douglas MacArthur. There are also documents showing MacArthur's confidence the war would soon come to an end. As the fatalities began to rise exponentially after the Chinese intervention, the U.S. Army's evacuation plan shows the growing urgency of the situation. The Armistice Agreement is also on display, signed by North Korea, China, and the U.S. South Korea's absence reflects its strong opposition. In fact, even many Koreans are unaware of South Korea's opposition and how the country half-heartedly decided not to obstruct the agreement in order to gain more bargaining power for future political conferences. Another exhibition at the Seoul Museum of History displays photos taken by an Associated Press correspondent. The images of Seoul's destruction, war refugees, and the rioting against the armistice make it difficult to believe the tragedy happened less than a century ago. It offers a new perspective on how South Korea managed to rise from the ashes and transform itself into the modern democracy we know today.
This was Kuala Lumpur 63 years ago. This is the plaza today. Photos and documents remain as proof of the war that divided a country, separated families, but that is also fading in memory, even though it affects everyone in Korea to this day. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, on to the ongoing family feud at the top of Lotte Group, the head of Korea's 5th largest conglomerate, and Shin Dong-bin has once again won critical backing from the Japanese shareholders of Lotte Holdings. In a vote Saturday by the de facto holding company, the shareholders threw their support behind the second son of the group's founder. The backing will help Shin Dong-bin strengthen his grip on power amid his struggle with elder brother Shin Dong-ju. It's not the first time that the Japanese shareholders have voted for Shin Dong-bin, as he prevailed in 2 previous meetings, including the last one back in March. Lotte Group is currently under a high-profile investigation in Korea over claims of embezzlement and slush funds. South Korea has become the 6th largest nuclear power producing country in the world. Korea, which currently has 25 operational reactors, has plans for another 8 by the year 2022. The nation's nuclear security watchdog approved plans this week to build 2 nuclear power plants in the southern port city of Ulsan. That project will cost $7.5 billion. Officials say the reactors will boost Korea's electricity supply and benefit regional economic development. The US is the top country in the world for nuclear power with 99 reactors, followed by France, Japan, Russia and China. Officials from the Busan Coast Guard will spend the next couple of days in the Seychelles questioning the 2 Vietnamese men accused of murdering their Korean captain and chief engineer while aboard their fishing boat in the Indian Ocean. The officials will spend Saturday attempting to get a clearer picture of the murders, interviewing witnesses, collecting evidence, conducting forensic tests and figuring out the motive. The Coast Guard was planning on bringing the suspects back to South Korea on Saturday, but unforeseen administrative issues mean they will have to wait until Monday. At least 23 people have been killed in catastrophic flooding in West Virginia, the worst the state has seen in a century. Hundreds of people were stranded and the waters were so powerful that they ripped homes away from their foundations and washed away cars. 250 millimeters of rain, 1/4 of the average annual rainfall in the region, fell in just 24 hours. Tens of thousands of households remain without power. The state's governor has declared a state of emergency, deploying 500 National Guard troops to help the recovery efforts. Around 20,000 passengers have been stranded following a strike by staff of Taiwan's China Airlines. The strike has forced the airline to cancel all flights out of the 2 main airports in Taipei. Hundreds of flight attendants staged a sit-in throughout the night Friday outside the firm's headquarters. They are protesting a new requirement that they work on the outskirts of Taipei rather than downtown. Organisers of the strike says it pressures flight attendants to work more overtime and will affect flight safety. Crowds of passengers have been building up at Taipei's 2 main airports as the airline scrambles to get them onto other flights. Finally, as we do, we're going to take a look at the weather. And most of the country is under partly cloudy skies this evening. It will be a mild and dry night with the low in Seoul only dipping to 16 degrees Celsius. Sunday will be a hot and mostly sunny day with afternoon highs around the nation in the high 20s to low 30s. We are in the middle of the monsoon season here in Korea, but no rain is in the forecast for the whole of next week. With that, let's take a look at the weather around the world. Well, that's all we have for now. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday wherever you're watching us and stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll be back with our next newscast at 10 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.